Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in today's video, using Universe Sandbox², we're going to use a very interesting and unusual bug in this game, and we're going to try to talk about the creation of the so-called Asteroid Belt in our solar system. Now, whether this bug and the creation of the Asteroid Belt is related is something that you're going to find out in this video. Welcome to What the Math. So typically, scientists think that the asteroid belt is essentially the leftover from the early solar system that was supposed to become some kind of a protoplanet or planet, but because of the proximity to Jupiter that is orbiting somewhere over here, very close to it, the asteroid belt remained as the belt and was not able to develop into a planet. But then I got a message from a person by the name of Justus Adel, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, who on Facebook mentioned that he was doing this experimentation in the game and then he found an unusual bug. And let's actually just create this. I can show you what it looks like. So he put a black hole in the middle, and then he had, I believe it was Mercury, orbiting around that black hole at a slight distance. And then I believe he also placed Earth, so we're going to place both of them. And due to the interaction of these two planets, something unusual started to happen. So let's actually roll the simulation for a little bit. We're also going to maybe enable trails so we can actually see what's happening. And as you can imagine, after some time, there's going to be a collision between these two planets, but then something unusual is going to start happening. Now, why am I doing this? Well, because I actually, when I did this the first few times, what I realized is that something unusual is being created here. The collision will actually start producing something very, very strange. And you'll see this after I roll with the simulation for a little bit. And as you can see, the planets start disintegrating and started creating these really, really unusual effects. Now, let me actually disable trails now. And we're going to focus on the black hole. And look at that. Look at how awesome and beautiful this looks. Now, whether this is a bug or a feature, I don't really know, but this is absolutely incredible. Now, why did I start talking about asteroid belt, and what am I actually trying to imply here? And look at this actually incredible effect of Earth spinning and creating some kind of a fire vortex. So when I was thinking about it, and I still haven't really found any scientific proof to this, but when I was thinking about it, kind of speculating about it, I realized that this could have actually happened in real life. Something could have collided with Jupiter, basically colliding with Jupiter from behind, and then sort of got separated and dismantled into a bunch of tiny pieces that then started orbiting closer and closer to the central region, to the central solar system. And because these particles would then interact with the Jupiter, they would slowly fall closer to the, in this case, this is actually Sun and not the black hole. And they would then eventually create something that would look like an asteroid ring. Now, you'll see this happening after a few rotations. If I actually start spinning this a little bit faster, it will happen a little bit sooner. But with time, because of the interaction with the relatively large Earth planet here, and because the Mercury here will actually disintegrate completely, what we'll have is a central ring, which you'll see relatively soon, with a lot of fragments flying closer to the Sun, and then some relatively large fragments as well, which will be basically the leftover from Mercury, which is still kind of exploding and is being collided with by various different objects. Let's actually zoom in here and see what's happening with Mercury. But all of these fragments, they will slowly move closer and closer and closer to the Sun. And eventually, this ring will actually stay there. Now, this is kind of what we have in our own solar system as well. We have a ring that orbits between Jupiter and Mars, a little bit closer to Jupiter. And that ring essentially is what we're creating right here. Now, after these explosions finish, you'll have basically Earth, which would be an equivalent of Jupiter in real life, and a ring of various leftover particles. So I'm going to try to actually accelerate time here just to show you that this will eventually start settling into a very stable looking ring around the Sun, but closer to the Sun than to Jupiter. But even as we wait, we actually get to see some really crazy effects. So right now Earth is actually spinning because of a collision, but it's spinning around something else, and it's creating this very unusual fire effect that you see right there. and I'm not sure exactly what happened here. This could be totally a bug, but it looks absolutely gorgeous. I have no idea how I managed to achieve this, but every time I run the simulation and do this differently, I achieve very different effects. But here we go. So you can see, because of the interaction with the Earth, this ring is slowly starting to form here. It's going to basically be right in the middle, right here somewhere. And it will be a lot closer to Jupiter than to the Sun, and definitely will stay there for a long time. Now the thing is, in this game, these light particles will eventually disappear, but had they actually been real particles, they would stay here forever. The fragments will actually remain, but most of these fragments will be orbiting in slightly more chaotic orbits, so they might not actually form a ring, but this is kind of what we have orbiting around Jupiter as well. There's these various asteroids known as Trojans, for example, that have established a very stable orbit between Jupiter and the Sun. And look at this, this is a collision that just occurred. That's awesome. But there's also asteroids, obviously, closer to the Sun. And so, for all we know, maybe, just maybe, that's how the asteroid ring was born. So maybe Ceres and Vesta and Pallas, all of those other large asteroids, are simply very similar to these very large fragments that you see right here. They were the result of some sort of a collision between a smaller body and Jupiter. Now, whether this is true or not, well, we might discover one day. But for now, the prevalent belief is that the asteroid belt was formed in the beginning of the solar system, and it's just remained because of the interaction between Jupiter and the asteroids, and because Jupiter is basically breaks them apart. It doesn't let them come close to each other, doesn't let them collide into larger and larger chunks, and it prevents the planet from forming. But that's just a speculation. For all we know, maybe this is actually what happened. Maybe the asteroid belt was a result of a collision, which is kind of what I wanted to show you in this particular simulation. Now, let's actually roll this a little bit more, and I'm going to show you what happens when all of this settles down and when all of this sort of becomes more stable. And looks like things have started to settle down. And I guess after a few hours of running this is kind of what you get. So you get a lot of fragments, a lot of various particles, and some of them are orbiting a little bit closer to the Sun, but not very close. But remember, this is like ultra short distance here, and the only reason I made this so small is that I wanted the orbits to actually have a much shorter period, because that way things will start happening a lot faster. But I guess the other thing to actually notice here and to observe is that this does kind of represent a pretty good image of the early solar system, where collisions happened quite a lot. And as you can see, things just keep colliding. Earth is on fire, Mercury is on fire too, and all of these other objects are basically fiery remains of the previous collisions. Some of them will be kicked into the outer solar system, some of them will come closer and stay here, and some of them will form various other flying asteroids or orbiting asteroids around this Sun right here, which is actually a black hole, because it's obviously much smaller. But this is a pretty cool way of simulating this effect, and I actually am really happy that a lot of you contact me on Facebook and often write me about different ideas that you have about various videos, because I do actually like to explore those ideas as well. And there's a lot of really cool things you guys have been actually discovering on your own as well. Anyway, so that's all we're going to do in this video, and hopefully you learned something about it. This was more speculative than scientific, and maybe one day we'll discover if asteroid belt is actually from a collision, or if it's formed in some other way, or if it's just the remains of the early solar system. If you've learned something from this video, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share this video with your friends, and possibly even consider supporting this channel on Patreon. And by the way, don't forget that the best way to contact me or to talk to me is either through Twitter, which you have the link for in the description below, or even Facebook, because Facebook is a lot more convenient than getting messages on YouTube that will take me possibly weeks to reply to. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later. And look at that, they finally collided again. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.